This is the ND3 sizing guide because, as you guys might be aware, sizing custom boots is a nightmare. And if you don't get it right and you just order your sneaker size, it can be like 2 sizes off if you're not careful. So this is a quick guide on how I size these and what NIX recommends, because sometimes it's a little different and I want to give you as much information as possible. And I'm going to give you 2 ways to measure for this boot, and it's all based around the Brannock device. If you don't know what a Brannock device is, it's this thing that you see at every single shoe store, and you can basically go to any shoe store and they'll size you up for free and you can size yourself. And the other method that I'm going to show you is basically a Brannock device, but if you don't have a Brannock device, so you get a pen and paper, a ruler, a 90-degree wall, and convert your measurements to the Brannock device. And instead of like going through this again every single collaboration, I'm just gonna cut to when we explained this during the Drifter collab with Whites, so that you can just watch that instead of having to hear me rehash it over again, probably not as well. So before that, I'm just gonna give you kind of my general sizing recommendations and what NIX recommends. So NIX recommends going half a size down from your Brannock, which is the exact same sizing that we did on the ND1 and the ND2 that were built on the H&W last instead of this Munson last. So as far as they are concerned, the Munson last and the H&W last fit exactly the same. And if you don't know, the previous 2, ND1 and ND2, were built on the H&W last. So if you have one of those, or you have a NIX H&W last, just order that same size in this Munson last for the ND3, and you'll probably be happy. The only caveat that I have noticed personally is I have really skinny feet, and I have a really low instep, and so I just have abnormally skinny feet. Going down a full size works for me, but it's still a little bit tight. So 90% of people are going to be just fine going half a size down from the Brannock and matching the H&W. If you like your boots a little bit snug, if you have really narrow feet, you could consider going down a full size, but just generally it's always safer to err on the side of a little bit too big than a little bit too small, because a little bit too small, it's not going to expand nearly as much as you think. There's this weird misconception that leather really stretches as you wear it, and that's not really true, but it's especially not true when you're doing a double vamp, like on this lace-to-toe boot that we're doing with ND3, because that's going to take a long time to stretch out, and it really only stretches a very small amount. Most of the stretching that people think they're feeling is just the toe box collapsing and spreading out in different ways rather than being so tall. The vast majority of people just get half a size down. It might be a little bit roomy, but the beautiful thing about having a little bit extra room is that toe starts to curl up, everything shapes around your foot, and you'll be more comfortable being a little bit too big than a little bit too small. But I wanted to throw that out there just for you guys that suffer from a case of lads like I do. And so now let's roll the footage of how to size yourself. To figure out how to size yourself on the Brannock, this is one of the easiest ways to do it, because pretty much any shoe store, any place that sells shoes will have one of these that you can just go there and try and put your foot in there and see what your size is. And the way this works is there's a heel cup on both sides, one's for your left heel, one's for your right heel. And when you're taking a measurement, obviously you put your right heel in the right heel cup, snug it against the back, and then you're gonna put weight on your foot and look directly over top of your biggest toe to see which line it lines up with. And make sure that you're wearing your socks that you plan on wearing with the boots while you measure on your Brannock, because it will make a slight difference. You can also measure width on the Brannock, but it's not the most accurate and it can kind of get confusing. So I would just say, most people know if they have wide feet. If you fit in most standard width boots, you're just gonna wanna go with a D. Even if you have a little bit more narrow feet like I do, D still fits me just fine. If you have wider feet and you're used to buying wider boots and shoes, you can go with the wider size, and that's about it. The next way of doing it still uses the Brannock measurements, but it's if you can't get access to a Brannock or you can't go to a store that sells shoes to use one, all you need is a piece of paper and a pen and a measuring tape. And the way that you do this measurement is you take your piece of paper, find a 90-degree angle wall. You don't want one of the sloped walls. It's gotta be a straight 90-degree right angle. Snug that paper right up against the wall. And then you're gonna put your heel right up against the wall, snugged as well. So both your heel and the paper are touching the wall. And then you're gonna wanna, once again, put your weight on your foot to make sure your foot's spread out as much as it's gonna be when you're actually wearing the boots. Then you're gonna take a pen, and you wanna make sure that you're not using one of these really thick pens with a really wide handle. You just wanna use a normal size pen, or a pencil. Don't go anything too wide. And what you're gonna do, start at the back of your heel. Obviously you're not gonna be able to get behind your heel because your heel should be touching the wall. And you're just gonna trace around your foot all the way up to your toes, all the way back to your other heel. And you wanna make sure that the pin is straight up and down. It's not an angle cutting in, not an angle cutting out. You want it to be straight up and down. So once you've got your measurement, take your tape measure and measure from the bottom of the paper where your heel was all the way up to the longest point that you traced. And once you have that measurement, it's like this one is 9.5. All you have to do is plug it into this chart. This is a conversion chart for the Brannock size. You can use centimeters, millimeters, and inches, whichever one you prefer, I think. I don't know, maybe it's just inches. And then plug that in, and that's gonna give you your length, your number length, so like your 10, 9.5, whatever. And then for your width, once again, you probably should already know if you need a wider size. If you got average feet, get a D. If you got wide feet, get the double E. But just to double check, you can take the tape measure once again and find the widest part of your foot and just measure across the widest part. Plug that into the chart, and then that will give you your width. If you have the time and you have the ability to do both of these, I would just do both just to double check, because if they should be the same if you do it right. So once again, now that you have how to size yourself, take that Brannock measurement and take half a size off. So for me, I'm a 10 on the Brannock, and I went half a size down. When it comes to widths, you probably already know exactly what you need for width. If most standard width boots fit you, just get a D width. If you're commonly getting extra wide boots and shoes and you need a wider width, just go with a double E, and it's gonna give you that extra room that you need. Plus you have a little bit of extra room in the toe box, and it's a more anatomical last. And so that might be where I'm feeling a little bit of the sizing is a little bit big and roomy, but also keep in mind, I didn't have a lot of time to break these in. This pair that's the 9, I only wore it for one hike, for like two or 3 miles maybe, versus this one I wore for a few days. So I would just say err on the side of caution and go half a size down, but at least now you know how the sizing compares to other boots. I wear a 9.5 in Red Wing. I wear a 9.5 in most whites, same with JK. Blundstones I wear a 9.5. Wolverine I wear a 9.5. Most sneakers I wear 10.5 or 11, so that's where you're like, you really have to make sure you get your sizing right, because if you're like me and you end up with a 9 that fits you best, but you wear a size 11 sneaker and you ordered a pair of these in 11, they would be clown shoes on you. So that's why it's vital to make sure you're sized right. My Euro sizing is 43 and 44, and my Birkenstock size is 43. So that should be everything you need to know. Don't get mad at me if you go a full size down and it's too snug. Don't get mad at Nick's. I think the vast majority of people are going to be just happy going half a size down and going with their regular width if they have a regular foot and a D, or if you have wide feet, go with a double E. And that's pretty much all there is to it. And I honestly think a lot of the issues that people feel with these Pacific Northwest boot sizings is they try to go a little bit too tight. And they're such thick leather that they're never going to break into the shape of their foot, at least not as fast as they think it should. And so that's how I would size it. That's all the caveats. That's how I personally did it. And a couple ways to do it. So I think that covers everything. Let me look at my cheat sheet. Hopefully this is helpful. We've had a really great success rate when it comes to sizing for these custom boots because we do this very thoroughly, and it seems like you guys follow the directions pretty well. So if there's anything I can do to make these easier to understand, besides just confusing everybody by being like, oh, you're supposed to get a half size down, but you can also get a whole. Other than that, let me know what else I can do to make these better. Thank you guys again, and for being on the limited edition email list. It allows me to make some really fun content that I don't want to push out to the whole world. So thank you guys. See ya.